Joining me now, former Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy. Eylon, great to see you again. Now, you've seen close up how Iran operates globally, not just attacking Israel. Now, if the regime can orchestrate anti-Semitic firebombings in Australia, do you think the Australian government has underestimated its reach?
Sharri, I think the whole world has underestimated the threat from the Iranian regime, and I hope this is a wake-up call that the Ayatollahs in Iran are the biggest state sponsors of terror in the world. They're a threat not only to Israel, surrounding us with proxy armies and firing ballistic missiles at Israeli families, but to the whole world. Just a few months ago, the British Parliament released a report talking about the persistent and pervasive threat of Iranian subversion. And this is before October 7th. In the year before the October 7th attacks, 15 kidnapping and assassination attempts by the Iranian regime on British soil. And I hope this is a reminder that Australia and Israel are on the same side against the same enemy. These attacks were not just attacks against Australian Jews, they were attacks against Australia. And Australia and the rest of the world need to get real about those attempts by the Iranian regime to sow chaos and violence and terrorism around the world. Israel is fighting a war on 7 fronts, but the 8th front is attacks on Jews around the world. And that means it's attacks on your country, on Australia too. And the leadership needs to wise up about that.
I know, it's so true. But it's not just terror attacks. We've also heard increasing evidence about how Iran is sowing discord in the West through rallies, for example, university campuses. Do you think this is also something that needs to be addressed?
Absolutely. The Iranian regime is looking not only to sow violence, but discord. It wants to tear Australian society apart. We had 2 attacks here that were non-lethal, thank God. I don't know whether on purpose, but the goal is to sow distrust and disunity within Australian society and to tear apart the fabric of your country. That is what the Iranian regime wants. It hopes that if Western countries are distracted enough with new internal problems, they'll forget about the Iranian regime's attempts to build nuclear weapons. They'll forget about its attempts to dominate the Middle East by arming proxy armies, and they will be able to gain greater and greater dominance in the region. So this is absolutely a threat to Australia because it's an attempt to undermine Australian society. And everyone now needs to be very alert as to the threat of foreign interference and foreign subversion, not only by Iran, by other actors as well, trying to sow discord within Australian society by, in this case, going after the Jews.
No, exactly. Now, I just want to turn to the situation in Gaza at the moment. We saw US President Donald Trump say overnight that he thinks the war in Gaza is going to be over soon. Have a look.
I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to have pretty good conclusive ending.
Now, Eylon, I spoke to Netanyahu on Thursday, and he said he was still determined to go into Gaza City, eliminate the terrorists. So isn't the time frame for that longer than a few weeks? Do you think there's a disconnect here?
Well, I hope the war can end in 2 to 3 weeks, but it will end in 2 to 3 weeks if Hamas does what the whole world is demanding, which is to free all of the hostages immediately, to lay down its arms and to surrender power. And then the war can end not in 2 to 3 weeks, it can end in 2 to 3 days or even 2 to 3 hours. This is a war that Hamas began, and it's a war that Hamas can end immediately. But I think the Prime Minister wants to end this war, but end this war in a way that makes sure that all the hostages are home and that Hamas cannot restart this war again and again as it has been threatening to do. So all world leaders who want to end this war, this isn't the time to throw Hamas a lifeline. It's time to pile on international pressure to make its leaders understand it's game over. They're never going back to governing the Gaza Strip. They have to free all of the hostages immediately, lay down their arms, and this horrible war that they started nearly 2 years ago can finally end.
Yeah. Eylon, there was also this tragic accident overnight where a hospital was bombed accidentally by Israel. Journalists and medical staff were killed. What do we know about how this happened?
It's still unclear what exactly happened there. The Prime Minister has said that this was a tragic mishap. So what happened yesterday was not supposed to happen, and the army is investigating it. And I have full confidence that if the army finds that people acted in deviation from their orders, they will be held accountable. That has happened before when the IDF has found that soldiers acted not in accordance with their orders. They were held accountable for that. This is happening, of course, in a context in which Hamas has militarized every single hospital in Gaza. Just because it's a hospital does not mean that there is no Hamas activity in the region. We know that there has been at Nasser Hospital. In particular, claims that Hamas had put a camera on the roof of that hospital that was spying on soldiers' movements and putting their movements and putting those soldiers at risk. But I trust the IDF will investigate that incident. And of course, it goes without saying that the IDF is determined to bring down Hamas. And this is a war against Hamas terrorists, not the people of Gaza, whom Hamas is hiding behind.
No, exactly. And Hamas has, of course, been refusing to accept the ceasefire proposal since May. All right, Eylon, always great to have you on the show. Appreciate it.